There's a feeling you can't shake. Something doesn't add up. You've seen the same behavior over and over, but you can't quite name it. A woman who clings to dreams that don't match reality. A refusal to grow beyond childhood fantasies. She expects the world to fix everything for her, and when it doesn't, she collapses, explodes, or disappears. And if you've been caught in that cycle, if you've ever felt emotionally drained, manipulated, or blamed for things you didn't do, you already know this. Immaturity isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear a baby voice or throw tantrums. Sometimes it hides in charm, in sweetness, in innocence that's not really innocent. But before you think this is some attack on women, pause. This isn't about judgment. It's about understanding. Because psychological immaturity isn't random, it's not an accident. It's a defense, something ancient, a shield built to survive a world that once offered no other option. And unless we understand that, we'll keep confusing emotional immaturity with weakness, when in truth, it's something much more complex. To understand emotional immaturity, you have to look beneath the surface, because it rarely presents itself as rebellion or defiance. More often, it wears a mask: sweetness, fragility, sensitivity, traits the society not only tolerates, but celebrates in women. From a young age, girls are told their value lies in their gentleness, their dependence, their softness. But here's the paradox. What begins as social conditioning becomes a survival strategy. In a world where women were once given no power, playing helpless wasn't a flaw, it was a tactic. But fast forward to today, where autonomy is possible, growth is encouraged, and responsibility is real. That same fragility becomes a trap, an outdated program still running in a modern world. So when a woman refuses to evolve, when she clings to the identity of the fragile girl, it's not just personal, it's generational, it's psychological, it's deeply, deeply embedded. This isn't about weakness, it's about fear. Fear that if she lets go of the mask, she'll lose her worth. That without fragility, she'll become invisible, and that's where the first archetype appears. The first archetype is the most obvious. She is the eternal girl. She may be 30, 40, even older. But inside, she's still 16, waiting for someone to guide her, protect her, rescue her. She doesn't seek independence. She avoids it. She doesn't handle conflict. She escapes it. Her tools? Tears, silence, emotional withdrawal. But this isn't about being sensitive. This is about refusing to grow. When life gets hard, she doesn't adapt. She collapses and expects someone else to clean up the mess. She believes, deep down, that the world owes her comfort, affection, and understanding, just for existing. But here's the twist. Her fragility isn't always genuine. It's often strategic. She uses softness to avoid accountability. She uses confusion to escape clarity. She hides behind, "I don't know," when the truth might expose her flaws. This version of immaturity looks harmless, but it's not. It drains those around her, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even financially. Because someone always has to play the adult in her world. And the worst part? Society protects her, excuses her, even rewards her for staying small. If the eternal girl hides behind helplessness, the princess goes a step further. She doesn't just want to be cared for. She expects it. She believes life should unfold perfectly, effortlessly, beautifully, just like the stories told her. She deserves love, she deserves wealth, she deserves success, but not through work, struggle, or sacrifice. No, those are for other people. The princess lives in a bubble of entitlement. She believes her presence is a gift, and when the world doesn't treat her like royalty, she breaks. Not quietly, but with rage, tears, or cold withdrawal. See, the princess doesn't handle disappointment. She takes it as betrayal. She blames the world for not living up to her fantasy. This is no longer about survival, it's about ego. And just like the girl, the princess isn't always easy to spot. She might be intelligent, charming, even accomplished. But beneath the surface is a deep resistance to responsibility. She wants the rewards of adulthood without the cost. And here's what makes it dangerous. The world often feeds her illusion. Movies, social media, pop culture. They all whisper the same lie. You're special. You deserve more. You shouldn't have to try. But what happens when reality disagrees? When no one comes to save her? When the castle doesn't appear? The princess doesn't mature. She collapses. Or she turns into something even more dangerous. By the time we reach the sorceress, immaturity has evolved. It's no longer fragile. It's no longer entitled. Now it's strategic. The sorceress doesn't cry to be saved. She calculates. She doesn't tantrum. She manipulates. This is the archetype of emotional control, of seduction used as a weapon, of chaos disguised as passion. She doesn't want love. She wants power. She doesn't seek connection. She seeks dominance. She studies people not to understand them, but to control them. And when things don't go her way, she doesn't fall apart. She plots revenge, guilt, shame, confusion, whatever it takes to stay in control without ever facing her own wounds. This isn't just immaturity, it's performance, a role perfected over time. But make no mistake, underneath it all, she is still terrified. Terrified of being exposed, terrified of losing control, terrified of facing her own emotional void, because that would require the one thing she fears most: vulnerability without manipulation. The sorceress shows us what happens when immaturity becomes armor, when the ego is so threatened by growth that it disguises immaturity as empowerment. But it's not power, it's pain in disguise. And while these archetypes, girl, princess, sorceress, may seem like personal patterns, they point to something much deeper, not individual dysfunction, but cultural design. None of these archetypes, girl, princess, sorceress, emerge in a vacuum. They're not just psychological responses, they're cultural creations. For centuries, women weren't allowed to own property, vote, choose freely, or live independently. So what did they do? They adapted. They learned that being soft could bring safety, that fragility could attract protection, that helplessness could unlock doors strength never would. These behaviors, what we now call immaturity, were once survival skills, and society rewarded them. A quiet woman was praised, an obedient daughter was loved, a fragile wife was admired. But here's the problem: the world changed, but the conditioning didn't. Now women are free to build, create, lead, and transform. But the emotional programming still whispers, be delicate, be rescued, don't grow too strong, it might make you unlovable. So many are stuck in an identity that no longer fits, still playing roles written by history. And when they try to break free, they're punished. A woman who takes full responsibility is labeled cold. One who sets boundaries is called difficult. One who doesn't need saving, she's called unfeminine, because the truth is unsettling. An independent woman is hard to control. This isn't just about the past. It's about right now. The internal war between who women are told to be and who they could become. Everyone talks about maturity like it's a destination, as if it's some glowing prize waiting at the end of struggle, but they never talk about what it really demands. Maturity is not a reward, it's a burden. It means letting go of fantasies, that someone will save you, that life will be fair, that your pain makes you special. It means standing alone, sometimes in silence, while the world watches you carry your own weight. Maturity is saying, I was wrong. I am responsible. I must fix this. It's not glamorous, it's not praised. It often comes with loneliness, grief, and the slow death of illusions you once clung to for dear life. And yet, it is the only path to real power. Because real power isn't found in how many people you can charm. It's found in how many truths you can face without flinching. But here's the catch. Most people don't want that kind of power. They want comfort. They want control. They want to be seen as strong while secretly being carried. That's why so many stay in emotional childhood. Because it's easier to demand care than to create stability. Easier to play the victim than to confront your shadow. So ask yourself, do you really want to grow? Because the moment you say yes, you begin losing the parts of yourself that once kept you safe. At the root of emotional immaturity, behind every mask and archetype, lives something ancient. Not weakness, not stupidity, but fear. Not the fear of failure, rejection, or being alone. Something deeper, more primal, the fear of losing protection. For most of history, a woman's safety depended on how she was perceived. Obedient, beautiful, fragile. Not because she was these things, but because survival demanded she appear that way. It wasn't a conscious choice, it was passed down, from mother to daughter, from story to story, a silent inheritance. And today, even with freedom on the table, that fear still lingers. Because growing up means stepping away from that safety net. It means admitting no one is coming, no one owes you anything. The responsibility is yours. That realization, it terrifies the parts of the psyche that have never stood alone. It shakes the identity that's been built on being chosen, saved, or protected. So the fear lashes out through victimhood, through passive aggression, through the desperate need to be seen as fragile, so that anyone will take the weight off your shoulders. But the truth? No one else can carry it for you forever. And deep down, most women know this. That's why so many feel torn, trapped between the old script and the new reality. We are living in a time of reckoning. The roles are changing, the stories are breaking, and for many, the mask no longer fits. Why? Because the old strategy, helplessness, seduction, entitlement, is failing. In a world that no longer guarantees protection, emotional immaturity becomes a liability. When the charm wears off, when the tears no longer move people, when no one shows up to rescue the princess, panic sets in. This is what we're witnessing now. An identity crisis on a massive scale, not just in one culture or one generation. Across the board, women raised to believe that fragility would shield them, now facing a world that demands strength. And when reality doesn't match the fantasy, what emerges? Resentment, rage, victimhood disguised as empowerment. Some retreat into blame. It's my father's fault. It's the patriarchy. It's society. Others double down, amplifying helplessness, turning drama into a weapon, hoping someone will still bite the bait. But the world has shifted, and when immaturity stops working, there's only one path left: grow or collapse. And here's the painful truth. The longer you resist growth, the harder the fall. Because no illusion lasts forever. And the moment it breaks, so does the fragile identity built on it. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. Do you keep playing the role, the innocent girl, the entitled princess, the cunning sorceress? Or do you face yourself, stripped of illusion, ego, and the safety of stories? Because growth doesn't just require change, it demands sacrifice. You must bury the part of you that relied on others to define your worth. You must silence the voice that whispers, "Someone else will fix this." You must confront the terrifying idea that you are utterly, completely responsible for your life. That's not a glamorous transformation. It's a death and a rebirth. It means killing the fantasy to awaken the woman. And make no mistake, the world will not clap for your maturity. They'll call you difficult. They'll say you've changed. They'll miss the version of you that was easier to control. But you won't miss her, because once you grow, truly grow, you begin to taste something deeper than safety. Freedom. Freedom from emotional dependence. Freedom from performative femininity. Freedom from the cycle of blame, fragility, and manipulation. And that freedom, it's worth everything. So ask yourself right now, who are you when no one's watching? What do you become when the role falls away? You can remain asleep, wrapped in the comfort of immaturity. Or you can wake up, and waking up will hurt. It will strip you bare, but it will also give you something no fantasy ever could, the power to become whole.